Most people believe rich people talk openly about how they got there, that their interviews, books, and speeches reveal everything you need to know. But that belief is exactly what keeps most people on the outside looking in. Because the truth is, the most powerful advantages rich people have are the ones they never mention publicly. Not because they're illegal or shocking, but because once you understand them, you start seeing money, success, and power very differently. Here's something most people never realize. Rich people don't hide secrets to protect themselves. They hide them because those secrets stop working once everyone knows them. And that's why you'll hear them talk endlessly about hard work, discipline, and mindset, but almost never about the quiet systems that actually keep them ahead. The first secret is uncomfortable, because it has nothing to do with intelligence or talent, and everything to do with distance. Rich people don't compete where most people compete. They remove themselves from crowded games entirely. While everyone else is fighting for promotions, approval, or attention in saturated spaces, they are quietly positioning themselves where fewer people are willing or able to play. This isn't luck, it's intentional avoidance of competition. Because wealth grows faster in empty rooms than in loud ones. Most people believe the path to success is about being better. Richer people understand it's often about being elsewhere. They don't try to win harder, they change the game. And once you see this, you start noticing how often they walk away from opportunities that look impressive, but are actually traps. Traps that keep people busy but replaceable. The second secret is about time, but not in the way productivity gurus talk about it. Rich people don't manage time, they protect future time. They are willing to sacrifice comfort, reputation, and even short-term money if it buys them control over how their days will look years from now. This is why many of their early decisions seem irrational to outsiders, because the payoff isn't immediate, visible, or guaranteed. While most people optimize for next month's income, rich people are quietly optimizing for next decade's freedom, and that difference compounds silently. The real advantage isn't working less, it's deciding what you will never be forced to do again. The third secret is rarely discussed because it sounds almost offensive. Rich people are extremely selective about who gets access to their attention. They don't just avoid negative people, they avoid average thinking. This doesn't mean they think they are better than others. It means they understand that beliefs are contagious. Spend enough time around people who normalize limitation, and limitation becomes your default setting. This is why they often seem distant or private, not because they are antisocial, but because they understand that proximity shapes perception. Conversations shape decisions, decisions shape outcomes, and outcomes shape identity. Protecting mental input is one of the most underrated forms of wealth preservation. The fourth secret is where most people completely misunderstand risk. Rich people are not less afraid of risk, they are afraid of the wrong risks. They fear being dependent, being stuck, being predictable. What they avoid isn't uncertainty, it's fragility. They structure their lives so that mistakes don't destroy them, which allows them to move more boldly when opportunities appear. Most people avoid risk by staying small. Rich people avoid risk by building buffers. This is why failure hits them differently. When they fall forward because the system beneath them was designed to absorb impact. The fifth secret is the one that changes everything once you notice it. Rich people don't chase money directly. They chase leverage. Money is a byproduct. Leverage can be capital, people, systems, distribution, or timing. But the goal is always the same, doing something once and benefiting from it repeatedly. This is why traditional advice feels exhausting to follow. Most people are taught to trade time for money indefinitely, while rich people quietly build things that work even when they're not present. The moment you understand this, you stop asking how to make more money and start asking how to stop being required. What makes these secrets powerful isn't that they're hidden behind closed doors. It's that they contradict what most people are rewarded for doing early in life. Society praises effort, visibility, and compliance, but wealth often grows in silence, patience, and strategic absence. And here's the part that most people don't like to hear. None of these secrets matter if you're looking for quick validation. They only work if you're willing to feel misunderstood, slow, and even behind for a while. That discomfort is the price of long-term advantage. The uncomfortable truth is that rich people don't think in years, they think in decades. And by the time their choices make sense to everyone else, the gap is already too wide to close quickly. And that's exactly why these things are almost never talked about openly. Because once you see them clearly, you can't unsee them, and you start realizing how much of what most people chase was never designed to lead where they want to go. What most people never realize is that once you understand these patterns, you start seeing them everywhere, not just among billionaires or CEOs, but in the quiet decisions people make when no one is watching. Wealth doesn't announce itself while it's being built. It reveals itself later, after the systems are already in place and the leverage is already working. One of the reasons these secrets stay hidden is because they don't feel productive at first. Walking away from crowded paths looks lazy. Protecting your time looks selfish. Being selective with attention looks arrogant. Choosing leverage over effort looks risky. But over time, these choices create a life that feels fundamentally different from one built on constant pressure and urgency. Another detail that rarely gets mentioned is how rich people treat information. They don't consume endlessly. They curate ruthlessly. They don't need to know everything. They need to know what matters. This is why they often seem calm even in uncertain situations, because their decisions aren't fueled by noise, but by clarity. Most people drown in updates and opinions, while rich people quietly limit what enters their mental space. There's also a subtle but powerful shift in how they define progress. For most people, progress means doing more. For the wealthy, progress often means needing less urgency, less dependence, less exposure to situations they can't control. Over time, this reduction creates strength, not weakness, because it increases optionality. When you don't need many things to go right, you can move with confidence. Something else almost never discussed is how rich people think about identity. They don't lock themselves into a single version of who they are. They see identity as flexible, something that evolves as conditions change. This allows them to pivot without emotional attachment. While most people protect their image, rich people protect their adaptability. That flexibility becomes one of their greatest assets. And then there's the way they relate to failure. Failure isn't treated as a verdict, but as feedback. Because their systems are designed to survive mistakes, failure becomes information rather than a threat. This is why they can make decisions faster and with less emotional weight. Fear loses power when the downside is contained. What makes all of this difficult to accept is that none of it feels heroic. There's no dramatic struggle, no public victory, no immediate applause. These secrets operate quietly, often invisibly, which is why they're so easy to dismiss. But over time, quiet advantages outperform loud effort almost every time. Another reason rich people rarely talk about these things is that explaining them often creates resistance rather than understanding. People hear these ideas and think they sound cold, detached, or unrealistic. They mistake strategic distance for lack of empathy or patience for complacency. So instead of arguing, rich people simply stop explaining and let results speak later. The real divide between those who build wealth and those who don't isn't intelligence or opportunity. It's tolerance for delayed validation. Most people need constant proof that they're on the right path. Rich people are comfortable moving for years without external confirmation, trusting the systems they're building even when no one else sees value in them yet. This is also why copying surface-level habits rarely works. Waking up early, reading certain books, or following routines won't create wealth if the underlying mindset remains the same. Without changing how you choose environments, manage attention, think about risk, and build leverage, habits become cosmetic, not transformative. And perhaps the most important truth of all is that none of these secrets guarantee wealth. They don't promise success. What they do is dramatically improve the odds. They shift life from reactive to intentional, from fragile to resilient. Over time, the difference compounds in ways that are hard to reverse. At some point, most people realized that money itself was never the goal. What they were really chasing was control, freedom, and the ability to choose how their time is spent. Rich people understand this early, which is why their decisions often look strange or unnecessary to outsiders. They aren't optimizing for approval, they're optimizing for autonomy. Once you start seeing these patterns, you also start noticing how much of modern life is designed to pull you into crowded games. Constant comparison and endless urgency. Escaping the gravity requires conscious effort. It requires choosing depth over speed and strategy over impulse. And that's the final reason these secrets remain mostly unspoken. They require responsibility. Once you understand them, it becomes harder to blame circumstances, timing, or other people. You start seeing choices where you previously saw limitations. The uncomfortable reality is that wealth isn't built by accident, and it isn't hidden behind a single trick or shortcut. It is the result of thousands of small decisions made consistently in directions most people aren't willing to go, at least not for long enough. And while rich people may never talk openly about these secrets, they live them every day, quietly shaping lives that look effortless from the outside, but are anything but random beneath the surface.